Hi friends, I'm Andrea, and just so you know, when I say hi friends, I really mean it. I want you all to be friends. That's why we're here doing this.
That's right. I'm Jim, and hi friends, and I want to be friends with you too. That's scary. We are a married couple living in Casper, Wyoming, and we want to talk to you about living in recovery from addiction, from a marriage standpoint, a family standpoint, a work standpoint, a little bit of everything standpoint.
Fist bump.
Doing the next right thing.
That's right.
So, do you want me to start? Or
Sure.
do you want to start?
Go ahead.
Like I said, my name is Jim. I am 53 years old. I am married to my high school sweetheart. I was going to combine high school and sweetheart together. My sweetheart. We own a restaurant. We started it 26 years ago. During the course of that time, we have had our ups and downs, but one of the downs was I became addicted to opiates. And
that's why we're starting the video. Recovery, marriage, business, family, friends, health.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I never thought we would be where we are. And we thought that it would be great to share some of our experience dealing with this issue and living through it and actually thriving after the getting better.
Yeah.
So how about you say your point of view, or from your perspective, when it started?
The only thing I can think of is the reason I want to do the podcast is because when we found out you were an addict, just about 4 years ago?
December of 2018.
So I felt like I wanted to, of course, finding out I was very angry. But the way we handled it, I felt like it was unique for me, because I knew I didn't have a problem. My part wasn't in his choosing drugs, but I felt like I had a part in this. So I wanted to work on, I wanted to work on myself too, to help him and to help our marriage. I knew I had to do that. It was very important, and it paid off.
It did pay off. I was keeping a secret. I thought I masked it. I thought no one knew, and it went on for about 15 years. You know, it didn't start off where it ended. It never does. You don't think you're going to become a drug addict. It just happens because of choices. And when I overdosed and my family found out in the hospital, I felt as if there was a lead blanket, like when you're at the dentist. I was in the hospital bed. It was like watching a dream or a movie. I wasn't all there. And I don't think Abby was there yet. I think she was still in Laramie. And the doctor said, we have some good news. He didn't have a stroke, but we tested his blood and there was drugs in his system, opiates, cocaine. And at that moment, I felt like a lead blanket came off of me. Like when you're at the dentist and you have that sense of relief. Like, they know I don't have to keep a secret.
He felt that, and I felt fear, anger, shock. And our kids, our son was standing back just quietly. Our oldest was also very angry. So we were all angry. And you were relieved.
So I guess hearing that means I handed them the lead blanket. Somebody's got to hold the blanket.
Yeah, and we didn't know where it was going. We didn't know what we were going to do with that blanket, but we knew we had to do something.
So the one thing that a friend said, who's not with us anymore, he said to Andrea, don't waste any money sending him to treatment because he got caught. And that was not the, yes, I did get caught, but I think the last 4 years of that chaos, I wanted to get caught. I wanted to ask for help, and I didn't know how to ask for help because I knew it was going to be, I was going to hurt people that I cared about. I was going to hurt my wife. I was going to hurt my kids, my grandparents, my dad.
And you had a well-known business in our community. So the community was going to find out. They were going to know.
Come to
That's
find
a
out,
lot.
quite a few people already knew. They had their suspicions. But that was the beginning of the journey. And that was 40, well, I did have 2 relapses, but that's for another time. But since June 29th of 2019, I have been clean and sober, and that's over 43 months.
Yeah. And through that time, there were many hills and valleys. And I think when I knew you were an addict, I thought, okay, life's going to be normal. I had no idea what was ahead of us. And I remember going to dinner. We took you to dinner, and like everything would be fine. Like everything was normal. We were a family together and having dinner at Old Chicago, and all of a sudden you just changed and you were using. Had no idea, didn't see
That
you.
was after we got out of the hospital.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, right after the hospital, I thought we would get back on track with our life. How naive is that?
I was, and that's when I took Suboxone that wasn't my Suboxone. And you can't take Suboxone when you have other things in your system still, or you're going to get sick.
So you went to recovery a couple days later.
On the 7th of December, Saturday.
Yeah, and he went to recovery. I had a part-time job I was working at. I had to quit that job, go to our business with our son. He's our middle child. Our youngest was in college. Lauren, I can't remember if Lauren was there.
She was here.
Did she work with us?
And she worked with us.
Okay, so then we're all running our business. Jim's not there to do it, and he did everything. So we had to learn. We had somebody on the outside that was helping us. So yeah, we're keeping our business afloat and knowing the community knew about all of this. But you know what was interesting about that is I did not care what the community would think of us. It didn't. I just knew we had to persevere and we had to make our business run, and
We had to get through it.
yeah, and we're human. You are human. And so I find that really interesting that, a lot of people, I know you had shame, but I was not
I still
ashamed
have
of you.
shame.
I was
Fast forward
proud.
to now, I have a Pure Time app on my telephone, and every month I get fireworks when I get a new month. And the other night we were watching the Bengals game, and my phone was dinging. And Andrea said, "Is that your phone?" And I said, "I've got 43 months today." And she said, "I forgive you, right?" I don't know how long you feel shame or guilt when you have hurt people. I guess I'm going to find out. It's like grief, I think. It's always with me. And some days it's more, Some days it's less, but it's always there. But forward, always forward.
Well, and I want to touch on that, how you forge ahead, and you've always told me, I will make this up to you. And you have. And I think that's so important for families in recovery to know that it's just important for both and all people to support each other when they're forging ahead and they're working hard to rebuild the family. But it comes from all members. We all have to do that. It's not just the addict's responsibility.
We've learned so much about ourselves over the past 4 years almost.
Yeah.
That I think about this quite a bit. You know, there was a time where I was at a fork in the road where I thought, man, I don't know. I don't think maybe I shouldn't do this. And I did it anyway. And I think about the person I am today. And when you find recovery and you have a miracle happen in your life and you find that new way to live, spiritually, physically, I wonder if I never would have touched a drug in my life, would I be the same person I am right now? Having a spiritual connection with God, my higher power, with my family, with my wife, would we be on this level? Because I didn't know that a marriage could be this good. I didn't know that relationships with our children could be this good. And I wouldn't, I guess you have to get where you're going, you have to have been somewhere else. It's a journey. And there's a quote, I don't even know if I want to say it, because I already cried once, but there's a quote in the AA book, or in the AA book, it says, as drowning men, we reached for what we thought was a flimsy reed, but it turned in to be the powerful, loving hand of God. And we were shown a new way to live, or, if you prefer, a design for living that really works. And that's what I found, is a design for living that works for me. And in the course of all that, I don't want to be a jerk to people. I want my friendships to mean a lot more to me. They're real.
Can I hate to interrupt
No.
right here, but when you talk about you don't want to be a jerk, that made me feel like I needed to jump in here and talk about that, because you were a jerk even a year after your into recovery. We were still really struggling in there, and it was really hard for you to understand and to change your mindset and to see how do you remember those? Yeah.
When I first went to recover, I went to treatment and I got a sponsor. And when you do anything new, you don't know what to do. So you're doing what the person next to you is doing. So I'm going to NA meetings and AA meetings, and I'm doing what they do. I remember a movie with Sandra Bullock in it called 28 Days, and she goes to rehab, and they're saying the Serenity Prayer, and I'm like, I'm living that movie now. I never thought that would be me. And my sponsor told me in the beginning, I want you to define for our next session what these words mean to you: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to change. And I thought I was really smart, and I got my phone out and I wrote down the definition, that came up on Google. And to be honest, I don't even remember what that said, because those things mean so much more to me now than they did in the beginning. Because in the beginning, I did not know how to be honest. I did not know how to be open-minded. And I was definitely not willing to change. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I had to learn that. I had to live that. I had to, you have to turn the lens inward. And when you have to start finding your own character defects and seeing them for yourself and not lying to yourself, because it, you know, you can lie to yourself all day long, but you know it's not true.
Yeah, and when you lie to yourself, your family members, your partner in life still sees it. They're living it.
Right.
And they're still probably unhappy. Well, I know I was. I was not happy because of
Everything.
your unwillingness to change. Oh, it was so frustrating.
When
It
we
was
get done with
very
this, I
hard,
bet
and that's why we're doing this
we're
channel.
going to be mad at each other.
No, we won't.
But yeah, that was hard. That I've heard it said from a friend of mine who is in the fellowship, and she said that she tells her sponsees, you know, the next year and a half to 2 years is going to be challenging. It's going to be uncomfortable, you know, and it is uncomfortable, but you have to decide there's this or there's going back to living in that misery.
Yeah.
We haven't been here yet. Let's try this. And I think about that every day, because right now in my life at 53 years old, I have now been clean and sober longer than I ever have in my entire life. From when I was 13 years old, 12, you know.
Yeah.
And it's, wow, what's today going to bring?
Yeah.
It's
Can I interrupt you real quick? Because you said something that made me think about when you were at the recovery center, your therapist, we had our counseling meeting, and your therapist said, she said, Jim, this might take Andrea 2 years to forgive you. This might take her 5 years to forgive you. And that was a hard time for him because, I mean, I think when she said it, he was like, okay, he went along with it. But throughout our recovery, he wanted me to trust him right away. And that was really hard for you. There was a lot of anger between us because obviously it was hard for me to trust him. And then I had a friend, she's in the rooms. She told me, she said, Andrea.
Really quick. When she says in the rooms, she means in the rooms of recovery. Mm-hmm. Okay, so point of reference.
Yeah. And so his friends are now my friends, which I love.
And her friends are now my friends. And usually, you know how in marriage couples, you know, the wife's friends are kind to the husband, but they don't really.
Well, I was
know.
telling her about my situation, I'm not trusting Jim, and she said, Andrea, and I love this with real friends, they can be honest with you. And she said, Andrea, you can trust him. You can choose to trust him. And she handed me a pencil, and she said, take the pencil. And I took it, and she said, that's how you can trust him. Choose, make the choice to trust him. You made the choice to grab the pencil, make the choice to trust him. And that changed my mindset. It helped me so much because it was just a choice I got to make. I got to make that choice.
That reminds, so in recovery, in the rooms, there's sayings like meeting makers make it and let go and let God. Now that one, that's like the trust thing, because letting go and letting God means you are giving it up. You are giving up that resentment, that grudge, that trust issue. You're giving it to him. Or your higher power, whatever you want to call it. But then when circumstances come up, a lot of times you want to take it back, like a grudge. Or if I do something that's out of the ordinary, that might spark what's he doing? That reminds me of a different time. And that's where the challenge is sometimes.
Right. And I think too, for me and trusting you, I had to look at and see, like you knew I will do whatever it takes to make you trust me. But also I didn't want to be a babysitter. I didn't want to be codependent either. I knew I had to take care of myself through your recovery. So I had to let you live your life and not babysit you. And I remember you feeling like I was babysitting you at times, and so I had to step back and, be mindful of that. But I forgot my track, my frame of mind.
About babysitting me and trusting me.
So, but also you had the responsibility to make sure I felt like I could trust you. That was very important too. I think people in recovery that are, as the addict, has to pay attention to what they're doing in their day-to-day that is making their family feel safe.
That's correct.
I think that's very important. It's just how it has to be.
An example, my phone. If you would have known me during that time, you wouldn't have thought I even had a cell phone, because it was always in my pocket or it was on the charger down in the basement. And I would delete every text message, every phone call immediately after it came. And I would say, I don't like baggage on my phone. And
yeah, I never knew. I just never paid attention to your never having your phone. Till you were an addict, how we learned of it. And then I'm like, oh my gosh.
So now,
this makes sense.
Fast forward, I don't delete any text messages or any phone calls, and my phone is
always facing up.
It's there.
Yeah.
And at first I had to make a conscious effort to leave it out and to, and now, I'll forget it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hide anymore. And that's one little thing that kind of gets you climbing that little mountain.
Yeah.
One thing at a time. They say, I'm going to not use or drink today. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know. But today I'm not going to do it. And then the next day comes and you make a choice. I'm not going to use or drink today. Maybe tomorrow. And you get through that one day at a time. And let's be honest, depending on where you are in your life, in the beginning, you're getting through it every 15 seconds.
Right.
And
well, I just want to be transparent here because I am not in recovery with drugs or alcohol, so I do partake in a glass of wine or a beer during a football game, maybe 2 beers.
She always has a designated driver.
That's right.
She's what we call a normie. A normie.
I call myself a muggle. It just makes it more fun.
That is more fun because I'm a wizard.
But so welcome to our channel. This is fun. Our channel is going to be obviously about marriage, recovery, family, our lifestyle. Jim and I are on a road to health, good health. We're intermittent fasting now, so we'll be including all of these
we get to eat after this.
Yeah.
We get to eat.
So thank you, friends, for being here. And remember, this is just our story. We're not professionals in any way. This is just how we're doing it. So we want to share it.
And also, we are in no way Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous is part of my story. I hit the microphone. Is part of my life and part of my story. But I do not represent those organizations in any way. I am using those organizations in my life. They have become an integral part of my life and my sobriety.
And
and
I support
wellness.
them 110% as our children do. So we just want to put that out there too. It's
Because
important.
we want to, what are we going to do? The next right thing.
Oh, the next right thing.
Boom! See you next time.